we've set aside some money, obviously for that, but is it going to be enough? We don't know. So that was a cost driver. And then ultimately, our utility is operating with excess, an exceeding amount of excess allocation that we're paying for. And so we're addressing all of these right now, but we need to budget for what it's done to us last year.
That's the sewer utility, right?
That's
you're
the
talking about?
sewer
Yeah.
utility. So, and then just the overall cost of everything. Last council meeting, we heard about Sam and his grocery shopping and how food is going up, energies are going up, everything's going up. You just turn the television on and you see the escalation of prices. Well, it affects us as well. And so we try to budget that we can, operate within the current economic climate of what's happening. That has a lot to do with it too. I rub elbows with a lot of other town managers, and it would appear that a lot of them are all getting requesting a bump in their budgets. They have to in order to stay sustainable and operate at that comfortable level, cover all the what ifs. That's what we're doing here. We're trying to cover the what ifs in case, because you just don't know what's going to happen. But the good thing is that Sam does have a lot of these areas that he puts money in to address the what ifs. And if it doesn't happen, we just roll it over into next year and we save it and use it.
The problem is, if some of these things that we don't know go over,
Yes.
we run a very real risk with only $1 million left. God forbid we have to use this. And let's say legal costs go through the roof, or we see an increasing decline in the businesses that want to do business here. So either one of those two things, worst case scenario, based on this, if we take 6 out and we have 1 there, worst case scenario is if we need to use all those $6 million and we don't have the money because of whatever's going on to put it back, and then things go over, we run the risk of bankrupting our surplus and going back to zero.
I have to leave, I just want to say, went to the police academy graduation.
Oh,
Okay, so, I just wanted to listen to this. He won't let you go bankrupt. We'll take a note out for the difference.
okay. Well, I know that. I'm just saying, it's
Yes.
nerve-wracking. It's,
It is.
All right, wish I could stay for the rest of the
Thank you.
talk.
bye.
Thanks for everything you do. Appreciate it.
Wait, is this the one our 2 officers are graduating? Where is it at?
Or it's in Passaic,
Oh, Passaic County.
going down to William Harrison College.
Oh, all right, please convey our congratulations.
So you'll have four new officers.
Very exciting.
Good, because you got some going out the door, so.
Yep.
Good.
Yeah.
Thank you, Dawn.
We haven't gotten to the expenses yet, but what is the net difference of the full-time and part-time employee count from last year to this year? Do you know? Do we add 2, 4?
I'll have to have Dawn work that out. She
Okay.
keeps track of that, but
As she leaves.
Thanks.
she'd have to look it up anyway, because it varies, but, again, we added at least, probably 4 additional staff,
Net additions.
here, just in the town hall.
Right, and these are net new additions, right? Not replacing existing people.
Yeah,
So we have additional people, so the people that were here last year and left, we replaced them.
replace that.
And then in addition to replacing them, so like Ed Hack, Deb Card, Diana, all of that. So all those people got replaced. And then we hired more people on top of those
No,
people?
just replacing those, but we replaced some of those that were part-time to a full-time.
To a full-time job.
Okay, so that's not net new. That's
So it's not 1 for 1.
And then a half,
It
maybe?
isn't. Your land use for the planning and zoning, okay, we
That's
used,
another one that's
for
going
the
through
longest time,
roof.
we only had 2 people. It was Janice and Maureen. All right, obviously, they've been replaced, but we also have additional employees in that, 2 additional employees in that department. So net or excess, there's 2 right there in just the planning and zoning that we're talking about. The construction department, I think we did 1 up also. And the engineering, I have a part-time assistant here helping us basically work with Corey Stoner, our outside engineer, and, but he's part-time.
He took the role of Ed Hack, right?
He did, but Ed was more of a consultant.
Yeah.
Ralph is a part-time employee.
But I mean, he's our
so-
gatekeeper. He
Yes.
took the, so when I say that, I should qualify. When I say that, I mean, we liked the business model of Ed Hack, of having a gatekeeper here
Right.
that was overseeing all the engineers that would needed to do different things. So that's what
But
this guy
We
is?
paid Ed as a consultant, though.
Right, so
Ralph
this guy
is-
is an employee,
He's an employee.
but he's serving in the same
He
capacity.
is, yes.
Okay.
So about 3.5 FTEs maybe, if you want to talk about net new numbers, right?
Yeah,
So,
you know,
okay.
Yeah.
Roughly, give or take.
Yeah, doing some of our studies for the utilities as far as rate studies and stuff like that, so.
And how much have the budgets from the boards gone up? So have the budgets gone up that are allotted for planning and zoning boards?
Basically, I just did the 2.5 to 2.25 to 2.5% on their OE and then
So,
had to arrange for the salaries of the, the
right.
new staff that had come in over the last year as well too, because
But when we talk about things like master plans and things like that, that could cost millions of dollars.
It's not millions, actually. It's probably like 200.
It's
basically,
gonna be more than that. Tom
got-
Collins has said multiple
Yeah,
times,
but
it's more than
he was
that.
incorrect. He
Master
misspoke. We have the
plan-
quotes. We have the
He's
estimates.
incorrect?
Yeah, he was. We have the
All right.
estimates now, Chris.
Okay, I
master
doubt it.
plan would be something we did over a 5-year emergency. So the
He's
cost would be spread over 5
If
budgets.
that's- You're gonna bond for
Yeah.
that separately.
So as a bond,
Basically, you're borrowing against your cash flow.
but we're not, okay. All right.
But what would happen is we would do an ordinance, establish a special emergency for reval, master plan, whatever. And then the cost of that ordinance would be paid on deferred payments over a 5-year period.
So none of that is included in here.
No. Because we don't have firm enough prices right now to put them in the budget, unfortunately.
Well, no, we do have them now. We just talked
We
yesterday, right,
talked
though?
about the advantage of doing it after the. budget
Waiting until
is-
after this budget is
done.
set,
Look,
yeah.
one of the beauties too, and I explained this to Dean the other day, was with doing it, a large project like that as a special emergency, now you're spreading that cost over a 5-year period instead of throwing $500,000 in this year and taking it out next year and making the budget. That
Smooth
way,
it out.
allows you to keep the budget, in a straighter line.
It'd be like 40 or 50 a year over 5 years instead of one chunk up front.
Right.
Yeah.
Right, which is more palatable than, you gotta
Yeah.
figure, if you put, let's say, for example, it was $500,000. Well, you're already over the base of what a tax point would be. So, okay, let's say just doing that emergency, if it was $500,000 or $600,000, now you're looking at your budget and you're putting your budget up 2 cents just to do that.
Mhm.
Where if you keep it over a 5-year period, makes it a little easier to swallow.
Yeah, yeah. Sam, was there anything else on the revenue? I know we were kind of still there with the other, all the other conversations, but is there anything else on there you wanted to point out before we move forward?
No, just like I say, the biggest thing, one of our saving factors, obviously, and I mentioned part of it was, the collection rate that's achieved by the tax collector and her staff. Other than that, most of the revenue's there. Some of the interlocals went away because they no longer want to have an interlocal, so that's why the revenues decreased there.
I'm sorry, which one was that?
The
Hamburg
Hardiston
Court.
Board of Education.
Oh, okay.
That went away, they no long.
Oh, the
no
stand-up
longer-
QPA.
Oh, Stanhope, okay.
So we no longer have agreements with them?
No longer have agreements, so
Okay.
the salaries associated with those went away as well.
That's why that's down.
Yes,
Okay.
so,
The, one of the largest increases in revenue, of course, you mentioned earlier, is the interest, right, on investments and
yes.
deposits. How much does the economic forecast and yesterday's
They've been,
Fed, all that, does that change anything with
it's
our
been-
forecast?
They've been saying pretty stable so far.
Yeah.
So about the same amounts come in.
Cuts,
I
yeah.
mean, obviously, our heaviest months are on the tax quarters. Usually like month of February, month of May, August, we'll be up to probably 28 to 30 million in the account.
Okay.
But then as soon as we pay out the school board debt,
Back to zero.
Okay, you want to get to expenses?
but like I say, other than that, the budget's pretty, the budget itself going through the lines, and a lot of you can look at them and digest it a little better. This is just your, like I say, your starting point to look at. Most of the budgets stayed pretty reasonable. There was a couple. Let me just explain what our largest increases are right off the bat. The largest increase of the single line is 264,000, something like that. It was the deficit in the sewer operating budget. And
Biggest cost,
You're talking about the revenue, not the expense.
revenue or cost?
the cost.
Cost.
Increase. And again, the thing there, and we have, I guess Ralph is starting to work at it, to try to get something in place where we do mandatory hookups in the sewer service.
We've talked about this.
Along with an increase in the utilities. We're doing a study to address, there's three components that I see: the water increase, the sewer increase, and then mandatory hookups to the sewer that we're already paying. We're looking to address all three factors very soon. We're going to hire a company and get them to do a rate study to make sure our numbers are accurate, and then we'll be presenting the council with a proposal on how to implement this and put us in better standing. As you know, a utility should be self-sustaining, and that's our real goal.
Even like I say, the sewer was something that should have been addressed 10 years ago, but it just got pushed down the road.
So how much of the sewer budget expense increase is due to it not being self-sustaining? Like, how much did we dip out of our own?
$264,000.
That's net difference over last year, or that's the total?
That's the net difference over last.
Okay, so what's the total? I mean, it's probably on here somewhere.
It was 264 is the total for this year. Last year it was 117, so it's going up.
That's the cost that we have to cover because the utility rates don't cover it. Yeah, that's big.
Yeah,
And a lot of that's excess sewer allocation. that
Yeah.
we're paying.
Yeah.
That's
We're just paying for it, not using it. It's just
correct.
right.
being something to weigh.
And again, it's something that, offered out to the lake. Obviously, water conservation is a big thing. And, as many people as you can get hooked up to that sewer, the better quality the water is gonna be. Even though it goes back in the Walkill up the creek a little bit, but, it's like I say, it's something we need to do. It's either sell the allocation or
Or get someone to use it.
Right.
And where is that on, what page? I can't find the sewer utility. Can you help? Guide.
Well, the deficit itself actually shows up in the current budget, in the current fund. That is,
Sewer operating expenses,
Fourth page from the last page.
yeah.
and
Fourth from the last? Okay.
like I say, it's very small right now. We only have probably a little over 600 or so customers. And I mean, one of the thoughts would be is if we could, we do the mandatory hookups, we put some incentives in place. As far as do like a 5-year plan to get everybody hooked up to sewer. Okay, if you get hooked up in the first year, we'll waive your sewer connection fee. And then the second year, okay, pay 20% of the sewer connection fee. Just something to incentivize the people to get moving and get hooked up so that we start using that allocation.
So we,
The
if
thing-
we, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. The other thing to keep in mind is that we have other residents that did hook up to sewer, and they are paying crazy wages because there's no offset.
Well, the rate's never
So-
gone up, though.
No, but I'm just saying, like, we've had residents in here multiple times from, Carriage House, the condos by Carriage House there. And they've always complained and said, we're bearing the burden. But the plan was, years and years ago, my understanding, Sam, you were here for that. I think it was even before I got here, the plan was buy all this so that people are hooking up and using it. We want to make sure we have enough. But
Nobody
the problem
ever-
is, no one is.
And the burden's being borne by
The people, the only people that are using the
part of
service.
it, and the town's paying excess
Yeah.
too. You're right. Again, the goal is for the utility to be self-sustaining.
Right.
Is really what you want it to do.
So we can waive our connection fee, but SCUMA won't.
We're working with SCUMA on putting a plan together to help us incentivize
Okay.
the hookup. They have discussed possibly spreading out the payment over a 5-year time period.
Okay.
So it's not an initial hit. We're continually to explore possibilities.
And the other thing that's light on the horizon with that is, we're into this far enough now that we're actually starting to pay off the bonds that we used to build it. So, within the next 10 years, most of the bonds will be down very low too. So at least then we could regenerate some of the income in there.
So if we prioritize, I think we should, the count, like speaking for myself, I think we should prioritize, and it sounds like we're going to, this restructuring of our sewer approach, that you said you were hiring a vendor contractor to come in to help us guide us through that process.
Exactly.
If we get that done this year, it doesn't sound like we can realize any gains in this budget year, right? This is probably going to be the next couple of budget years where you're going to actually see the realization of those.
That's the
gains.
magic question.
Right.
Depends how many people tie in. There's a cost break involved there with the incentive of waiving the initial fee to hook up, their user fee that they'll be paying once they're hooked in, and then, how many can we get to hook in? And that's part of the study that the company, the vendor's going to do. And we'll have a better answer for you once that study's completed.
Sure. But if you're giving them an incentive, that incentive is coming out of our budget, right?
Only if they sign up.
Yes.
Right.
I think the back end of that has to be, we will not issue permits for failing septics in these areas anymore. You
I
must
think that's
tie in.
already, I think that's already in.
Okay. Because
Failing
I remember
septic
Phil
has to
came
hook
to
up.
us and gave us this presentation.
Yes, and this is right, and it just wasn't followed through.
Okay.
I think
Yeah,
that's
I
already.
mean, again,
failing
you-
septic, you still have to, you have to.
You
tie it.
have to connect. People from the lake have been asking. Can we get sewer?
Or not?
They want it.
Yeah, they're not going to have any big
Little
hits
lines
this year.
are out there.
I saw Ralph just get a sewer map, he just got a sewer map, so we have a map now of all the sewer lines, and so it's an active project that we're working on right now.
I'm just saying, I know that there are people that live around lakes
Mhm.
in
Well,
Sparta
It's natural.
that are really asking and saying, please give us sewer, because the significance of the proximity to, if there's a problem or whatever. The other thing is, if you own a lakefront home in these places now, I know I can only speak for Lake Mohawk, but the cost for you, if you have to replace your septic, is through the roof because of all the requirements. So I've had multiple requests from people that have lakefronts to say, can we please, we would gladly hook up rather than have to deal with $60,000 of a septic
As
system.
long as they have the line in the road right now.
Right.
Our low-hanging fruit is where the
Yeah.
existing lines are.
That's a
and
huge
people
project.
Aren't tied in.
And that's Woodport Road, Sparta
Sparta
Ave.
Ave, the whole sewer
Plaza.
service area right
Mhm.
now. We need to get all of them tied in because we don't need to install pipes or anything. It's already there. We just got to get them to tie in. Whereas what you're talking about, it sounds great and all, but now we
That's
have to
huge.
install
Yeah.
and go through those
If
whole
there's no
things.
pipes.
Lifters
By the
and,
way, we just had gas tear
Yeah.
up the roads and put it in, so I can appreciate the desire and the impact on it, but that is a whole nother
Right.
ball.
That
Let's
to
focus
expand
on
the
where it
area?
is.
Right,
Because if you expand the sewer service area, it also affects your affordable housing requirements too.
right, there's a
Yeah,
whole
there's a
impact.
whole-
with it.
yeah,
Sure,
yeah.
sure.
And again, the amounts of money that was originally spent when that line was run, you know, phenomenal. I mean, you were talking probably a couple $1 million
Oh,
just to
sewer-
run,
Sewer connect,
just
huge.
to run that feed, that
Yeah.
line, because it goes out by the high school, up West Mountain, then back along, Pork Hill Road in Franklin, and then ties in over by Franklin, by where the viaduct is there, over,
So it doesn't go down 94.
no. No.
They were
But there
running
is one,
some
I
kind
think
of
you're right,
pipes
there's
up there.
Skooma
Skooma has one that goes right along.
Right,
Yeah,
it's
that's what I
Skooma
was gonna
Sports
say.
Road,
Yeah.
right on the railroad track.
Because
Okay,
we
yeah.
approved not long ago, when Votex Septic went, we approved them to tie in.
That's a
Yeah,
project.
we were, thought it
in-
was gonna
that's-
work.
That's
and-
an active project.
Right, but
We're
I'm just
still working
saying,
on it.
so, I mean, ultimately, that was the other thing, when North Village went up there, we were desperate to say, tie in. Go to the sewer, like,
Yeah,
use the
and
sewer, but there was
North-
all these problems.
Well,
and it-
North Village did their own package plant.
But I'm saying before they did that, the conversations were tie in. We have all this flow we're paying for.
The allocation, right. No,
Tie
you're
in.
right, and that would have helped even further where we are right now,
Right.
but it didn't work out that way. It's all
Well,
cost.
That package plant will die one day too. So if these are the rules, these are the rules. I mean,
Not
I'm just
ours.
saying,
Thank God.
It's, I was in a Pakong, I owned some property there when the whole Pakong did their sewers, and they had a 4-phase thing. They did the first phase, it was so disruptive, hugely expensive, that they never did the other 3. I mean, these things are enormous.
for sewer,
The sewer, just digging the lines and putting the lifters in place and the rocks, and it was a huge project, very disruptive, and,
Floyd Franklin was when they did it, and that was back in the mid to late 80s.
yeah, tons of money.
Sam, I have some questions about the planning board budget. So,
what page are you on?
let's see, oh, first page of expenses at the bottom, very bottom.
Carries over, Chris. It's right at the bottom.
Yeah, so not the department, that's separate, but the planning board itself. I see last year, if I'm reading this correctly, we had 124,500 budgeted. We added 175 to get to that 299.5, right? That was the net, that was the eventual budget. It looks like to the right of that, under the column that says paid or charged, looks like we spent 225. However, if you go back to the left, the second column over for 2024, it looks like we're only budgeting 103.
Because the 175 was the special emergencies for the litigation.
That wasn't part of your budget. They moved it in
But
so
that,
you could
but I don't
spend
see that for this year, though. Is that,
because they're not, it was emergency.
Does it
Hopefully
carry
we-
over?
Hopefully we
No.
won't get sued anymore.
No, it's money that was not there. That won't just be, that, your budget is 103.
It's a starting place
But I
from,
think we need to
103.
build it in now because there's active litigation, like, not even worrying about new litigation. There's
That's what the one.
3 active
yeah.
litigations going on, so I
Well,
think
that's
we would-
the balance of any of that money that's left in there will goes to that. Hopefully,
that
there
reserve
was a
column.
balance left in last year's of like 74,000
Okay, so that does carry over.
we can use against, the payments.
Okay. Does anything have to happen now to make sure that's available? Because we have these active
If it
mean-
goes to the end of the year, then I would have to do like a resolution to put it in like a special reserve. If it goes to the end of this year.
Okay, so right now that 74 was unused from last year, but it's still sitting there waiting for this litigation. Got it, okay. So the 103,
Is 177.
was that, sorry?
You add this 74,000
Yeah,
and then take that and add it to
103.
the 103.
yeah.
So then you're gonna end up taking, if you take 103 and 74 and add those together, that is what's gonna be in your, but that includes
Includes
already
litigation.
a chunk of that money from the emergency appropriation. So your base budget is 103. But
Yep,
you
I
have
get it.
this little carryover, which is not to be spent, I guess, on anything else
That's
but
just
the litigation.
Yeah. So I guess
So-
then my concern is why we're down to 103 when last year we were at 124.5. Is there a way we can see how last year's money was spent to
But
see if
that's,
that's,
part of that money was transferred in also from other lines, that 124, because we realized there was gonna be a shortage in that line.
You guys
Yeah, we had
also got
another bid, right?
$65,000 to review your professionals, which was not in there.
So it's artificially high the last
Say
2 years, is
again?
what we're
We
saying.
gave you additional money in the, I think it was 60-something thousand dollars for you guys to go through that whole review of your professionals. Remember? You went out to bid, you went out to RFP.
no, that didn't cost 65,000.
That was what you asked us for.
No, that was not for that. I don't think we paid anything for that. I mean, I think we paid, what's the gentleman, the consultant guy? We paid him a few
Steve.
$1,000s. We paid him like 4,000.
I know
I
that
think
the planning
Angelo might
board
have charged a bill or two, but
Yeah.
Planning board came to us and asked for $60,000 for something. I'll go back in my notes and figure out what it
yeah, I
was.
don't think that was that.
So, I mean, we have to also be careful. We know now we're financially very sensitive. We cannot go on spending sprees. We have
Well,
to be
I
careful.
get that, but this is critical work here. And if you ask anybody in the public if doing some of this work is critical, I just need to know where that difference is because we have the PIAC that's going on, that's approved, that's the Plan Endorsement Advisory Committee. We have the Ordinance Review Subcommittee. They're still looking at ordinances that might need to change sooner than waiting a year for the master plan. So there's these professional fees, they're all professional fees, but that's still happening right now. So I just need to know, is that
If there-
included in
if
that
it- if
103.
it's anything over and above like the normal process of the board, then we have to look at it to see whether it's something that would, like a revision of master plan type of thing where you would put it as a special emergency. So,
well, these are ongoing subcommittees, they're not new.
Right.
I mean, there was a new one just added, but that's just to look for grant money,
but
that's not
when you
fees.
have
that's not-
ongoing in several different departments, at one point you need to pull the whole price together so that you can get one big nut.
I
to-
get it. So
What is
how can we break out this 103 so we have a mutual understanding of what this 103 represents?
I'll have
you
to
know?
pull out the detail. Unfortunately, I don't have,
Okay,
I got greater detail as far as the subs underneath, but.
yeah.
So wait, you have a committee that's looking at grants?
Yeah.
So why not just work with the grant writer that we have?
We are.
We are.
Okay.
It just started yesterday. It's just a few members want to make sure they understand what grants are available from like Highlands Council. So we have, Dory's going to be involved and
So I
grant
think
writer.
we also need to be very careful that we are being mindful of the fact that our land use board they're all new and they have a lot of work to do. And we can't flood them also. They have
mean
work they have to
employees?
do. Yeah, I'm talking about the
Well,
staff.
yeah, but if this can save us money, looking for grants, it's.
I'm not worried about looking
Yeah.
for grants, but there's a lot of other things going on here. PX should be going away when it's over.
Right,
That's the
right.
crux of PX.
Yeah, but there's still probably $5,000, $10,000 worth of fees between now and getting to December on that, for example.
Right, but I'm saying like that shouldn't be an ongoing thing because that's going to disband.
Agreed.
The ordinance review, that's an ongoing thing you have with the professionals that you have working with you, obviously.
Only on specific zones. It's not going to be
No,
permanent
I know,
either. Yeah.
I know, I understand
Yeah.
that. So what other committees do you have that are working with professionals?
Those are the two main ones.
The two main.
Site plan waiver, they don't, Tom does it. He just chimes
Right.
in now and for free.
And obviously the planning board.
Professional one's done. Master plan subcommittee is separate. So these are the two. So these two together would probably be 55.
Is the master plan subcommittee have a professional tied to it?
Well, that's part of the master plan, of course, yeah, all three of them. But that's part of the master plan funding. That's not in here.
The special
That's
appropriation.
a
But we don't
special,
have funding right now for the master plan.
We
Right.
will.
But it's coming
Now,
after this is
After we adopt this budget,
It'll
I
be
told them what we
spread out
would
5
have to
years.
do then is do an ordinance for, special emergency for the master.
so it doesn't affect this, some part of this
So the council
budget.
has to approve that spending, correct?
Yes.
Absolutely.
So there's two subcommittees that are ongoing now. So I just don't know if that, I don't know, making up
It-
45, 55K.
It'll be there. I understand how you want to see that. I know it'll be there.
Okay,
And you exemplify why that land use department is just, why it's bigger, why we do have more staff there. The focal point of all the land use work that we're doing right now is, yeah, it's important. The master plan, the open space, all that. The grants are going to help offset this, though a lot of them are matching or reimbursement, so
Yeah.
we got to front the money on that. But you know, I think everyone's trying to get to the right point in the least costly manner, so it works out real well. But it'll be there.
Okay.
I know what your concern is on that. Sam is good at making sure that's there, and he has the flexibility at the beginning of the year and the end of the year to transfer, move money around and stuff like that, and he's a chess player with it.
Okay.
He really is.
Can I,
Because I just see that like what was charged last year.
There's not a lot of detail on this.
Yeah,
It's difficult
yeah.
to, it's a really,
It's just more summary, but
Yeah, it was,
of the actual lines.
looks like we spent 125 last year based on these numbers, not including litigation. Um, Right, because we put in 175 for litigation, we have 75 of that left over, so it means we spent 100 on litigation perhaps. And if we look at what we spent altogether was 225. So we take out 100 for litigation, that means we spent about 125 for the professionals, right, for the other planning board activities. So that's the gap I guess I'm focused in on, the 103 versus that 125 spent last year.
so it's what, 18? 19,000 bucks?
Yeah, because I think there might have been some money from a prior year that actually was into that, so that
Oh.
was,
22,000.
Oh,
might have been a reduction out.
okay, so it might be not clear on these.
Getting it back in line to where it had been in previous years.
Oh,
Unfortunately, that department, the last 2 to 3 years has been constant change with personnel and, it's been pretty tough over there.
mhm, yeah, I know.
So at least now we've got some consistency and it seems like we have fairly decent working staff.
Yeah, very, very decent.
Looking at the wages and salaries, I see that police departments the salaries are going up 200,000, and the road repairs going up 306,000. Are we hiring net new police officers?
As far as I know, the staffing levels are gonna stay the same. Basically,
Is this the budget, the bargaining agreement that,
that will be coming up.
well, no, I'm talking about the reason for the increase of $500,000 between those two departments in salary.
yes, part of the reason.
What's part of the reason?
The collective.
Because I know with the road department, we gave them a significant bump especially with the CDL.
Also correct, and the numbers aren't changing there. This is just to sustain the bargaining contracts that were negotiated. The good thing is for what it's worth, the DPW is fully staffed. They're right where they need to be,
And churn has stopped, right?
and.
Is
excuse
the
me?
churn stopped or the turnover?
Yes,
For the most, I mean, you're always going to have a healthy amount of turnover, but
yeah, right now it's pretty steady. He's got a young group there, so we haven't had like any retirements lately.
Mm.
It's pretty steady with the way they have it set up. Also,
Our largest problem, like year and a half, 2 years ago, was we weren't consistent with the starting rate of
our market, in the market, understood,
and,
yeah.
and the problem, we were losing people to
Yep,
towns
remember
that
that.
actually were paying more money than we were. And we're losing quality people, so we had to look at that when we went into that last
remember that.
contract unit.
But there's no net new people in those two buckets, right? It's just, again, part of the union bargain,
correct,
the CBA.
correct.
So the rec department, Parks and Rec, is that only? So I know there's DPW, and then there's Parks, and then there's Recreation, right?
And there's buildings and grounds.
And Buildings and Grounds. Okay. So my question is, I know that with the amount of new fields and all of that kind of stuff that we've been putting in, I know that there's a need for additional people. I don't know where they would go in this, you know, I don't know. If they would go to grounds or DPW or parks or rec, like, I don't know which one of these things they would go in. But is there room in here to hire those additional people so that we can properly maintain all the things we're building? All the new things we're putting in?
As newer things come down the pipe, we'd have to look at it and evaluate whether we needed additional personnel. I think right now we're carrying the same size number of staff. We do have some part-time people out there that come in and assist, which help out greatly. And I think it seems like the load is pretty good right now. I haven't heard any complaints as far as not getting things done, and
Now, Sam, I see the public grounds, public buildings and grounds salaries are going up 116,000.
we actually have 3 staff people on there now,
So
so.
it's actually 4, right?
So it
'Cause
was
you got the
120, now
other-
it's,
Oh, yeah, I forgot, because half of Don's goes to this.
236.
So,
are those new employees?
No, we have a cleaning person, Candace, who cleans all the buildings. She's in there. We have Jean and Gunnar, which are our building and grounds facility maintenance group. And then we also have animal control come in partly out of
he helps empty garbage cans
But,
and
w-
stuff.
so why, help me understand why it would go from 120 last year to 236? An increase of 116,000.
With the additional staff and stuff like that, and moving,
I thought it was the same staff, though.
was the same staff, but
We didn't have Candace. I mean, Candace just got kind of matriculated in mid-year.
For $100,000?
No.
Are they also covered under a CBA?
yes,
Yes.
Okay, so I know
That's part of it, Dan,
Hmm.
yes.
yeah.
So it was 120, but now it's going up 116 more. It seems almost double.
I think what he's saying is they move people around in the organization, so they're not new people, they're just now in a new place.
Oh, is that the case?
I think that's what I heard
They
him say.
would, they would come out of,
Used to be 2, now there's 4.
So we should see a
It's a
corresponding decrease
realignment.
elsewhere?
yeah, and a lot of what was done in the past, we're trying to get it more to the actual department was, they would start splitting salaries out and charge part to recreation, charge part to here. Problem of it is, it's building and grounds, and it includes all of the buildings and grounds. It shouldn't be, oh, no, we gotta charge part of this to recreation, we gotta part.
Right. Yeah.
So and the pages don't have numbers, it's hard for me to tell you what we're on, but it looks like total wages and salaries are going up by 1.4 million from 23 to 24. And we've got a net new of, we said 4 or 5-ish people.
Yeah, sounds about right, I think. New people.
Well, we hired a dispatcher downstairs that I'm aware of this year. The other ones that you were talking about took the part-time engineering. I think I did an inspector in construction, and then we did the land use. So you're up around 5.5, 6
Hmm.
there. And then with the CBAs, and then the overall 2.25 increase.
Yeah, that's up.
But there's no line. It's a significant bump. I studied
Yeah,
that too.
yeah.
So, it is significant for the staff. The good thing is that I don't think we're really anticipating any more additional staff so much. We are anticipating some retirements, especially down in the police department. Some veteran officers are in the process of retiring right now. John Lamb is going out at the end of the month. There's
How
a-
many? There's 4, right?
Yep, there's a couple more.
That's why we have 4 new officers coming in.
Yeah,
So that salary is gonna drop drastically.
it will, but we still have to pay their retirement. So
It's additive then, right, in a sense? Okay.
it's there, but we need to be cognitive of all of it. And knowing, looking at those numbers, I'm with you. I mean, we're all with you on it.
So the big ouch is 7.5% tax increase. right?
I didn't even know we could do 7%. I thought we were capped at 2.5.
As long as our overall, it's on our appropriations, and our overall appropriations aren't over the 2.5%.
Sam, weren't you thinking, I thought yesterday, I could be mistaken, you said it was going to be more like 3 or 4? Is that, am I reading that wrong, or do I remember?
4 cents is the.
I mean, percentage-wise.
Let's see. Yeah, I don't think I have the percent there.
He's looking at this.
Oh, yeah.
So it's
Oh, it's
calculated.
7.45%, yeah, increase on the tax rate.
7 point, what?
45.
So if you, so this is what your basic homeowner is gonna do. Your basic homeowner is gonna say 7.45% for the municipal, whatever the school was, that was almost 7%, right? So that's 14%. The county is 3, that's 17%. So, and the library also went up over $100,000.
Well, it's, you can't add them because they're
Libraries
different
is
levels.
already part of the rate, though.
Well, I mean, I know that's a mandatory thing we can't control, but what I want to just make sure is, so, just so I understand, are the taxpayers of this town going to see their bill basically go up 17% overall?
No, you can't add the percentages together. It's,
But the school,
Chris.
because the school one's higher, isn't it?
right, what relatives, right, to each other, right? It's
Chris,
separate.
This is the example that he shows. On the mid-assessment, it's 372,
Uh-huh.
right? And you put all those increases, that's what it would go up with everything. Just the
In
town,
total.
Yeah, the town is 169.47.
So the tax bill's going up higher than the school bill?
No.
Well, that's what it says. Municipal taxes,
Well,
169,
percentage-wise,
local school,
but the
155.
school's still a larger chunk.
But the percentage of the tax bill, the school is low.
That big.
But the increase from 23 to 24 is that.
Oh, that's why, because he said half of it was already implemented last year and
Right.
half of it gets
Right.
implemented this year.
Exactly.
That's why.
Exactly.
That's why it's never a true figure with school. When you do it on that fiscal year, it's half and half.
I'm just looking through this through the lens of how we are going to, I think we better be prepared. I'm not saying we don't need to do this. I'm saying we better be prepared. I know we're having another meeting after that. I think we all just need to look at this thing and like digest it a little bit. And then come back to you guys individually with our questions before we meet again, so that we can just sort of roll through it again, maybe. But,
That's why we're here.
I know, that's what I'm saying, exactly. I mean, it's hard to, I know, Sam, you're in this thing 24/7, so it makes perfect sense to you. And Jim, you're in it with him.
I'm learning every day.
But, for us, I think looking at this, some of the things just are like, take your breath away, sort of, without,
Now,
again, and I'm also concerned about, other departments. So departments, the process is the department heads meet with you, right, Jim? And they meet with Sam. They meet with you both. And they say, this is what we want. This is our wish list. This is what we need. Did anyone get told you're not getting your wish list? Like, did anyone get told Santa's not coming to you this year? Or-
That's the capital discussion. Honestly, most of the operating was relatively 2.25%, that the usual of what we do every year.
Okay.
It's the bigger items, equipment and stuff, and capital. I know the fire department has an appreciable wish list on this, and I told the chief that I may bring him in to basically explain and his requests for the council to consider, because these are the capital items, and that's where I think you're going to see where we're going to have to.
So where's the capital in here? What is earmarked?
2 million.
2 million? So that's less than we've done in the past years.
less
Much
than
less.
we've done, but what it also means is that we would have to look at going out and doing notes or bonding.
And we haven't had to do that in years.
Well, all our bonds are paid off.
I know, that's what I'm saying. It's like the feeling you get when you pay off all your credit
The
cards. You're
the
like,
last payment of our bond is in here, $515,000.
Okay.
And then all of our current fund, if you have it, debt is done. I mean, obviously, we still have the debt for the sewer and water utility, but so
but also-
it's time to compile some projects
Yeah.
and go out and send them out the bond. The only part of it is, I wish we'd gone out for bond a couple of years
Yeah,
ago when they
exactly.
were at
Rates are
2%
low.
instead of, you
Yeah.
know, 4 or 5% that they may be at now.
You could almost argue too that because we've done that, which is wonderful, we've had less, our surplus is less, right? Because if we had used more bonds and we had a bunch of bonds out there now, we would have had more cash at the time.
Well, if we were
Earlier on.
using bonds to pay
Just
off operating
one more
expenses.
example, and if you look in
Usually
here,
for
if you
both.
look at the line for
Bond
police,
for capital.
police
project.
vehicles,
Yeah.
I
okay?
saw that 125.
The jump on that is unbelievable. I mean, we were used to picking up the, you know, the Fords for probably $50,000 a vehicle.
50,000, yeah.
With the upfitting, the cost of upfitting, plus we can't get the Fords anymore. They're a year out when you order them. So we switched over to the Tahoes. Tahoe's vehicle is 70,000 and the upfitting is 25, so it's $100,000
Like
a
100,000.
vehicle.
That's why you see 300 there. It's for 3 vehicles.
That's 3 vehicles.
Is that common to do 3 a year?
Yeah,
Yes.
that's what he needs in the fleet down there because, and we're put, you know, it's a large township, we're putting a lot of miles on these vehicles.
And now he's staffed. So the cars are even more important.
But it's just that type of thing that's gone up. I mean, I can remember a time, heck, if you paid $10,000 for a police car, this is like when I started, that was a lot of money.
Well, the other thing to keep in mind is that there was a 7-year period or 6 or 7-year period where they did not get new cars.
They've always gotten.
So the
cars.
problem was it didn't come through. I know there was a couple of years when Bill was here, they did not get new cars.
They were
And they
never
were
there.
hooping them together in the DPW garage
Yeah.
and trying to, like,
There's a time when they ordered them, it's just they didn't get delivered, and you had a long lapse in getting the
Oh.
delivery, and then we really had to milk the old cars and put them together and keep them running. And that was a challenge.
I wonder
So
if it's
if we
cheaper
had-
to get pickup trucks.
Well,
We got the
we
one,
went to
it
the Tahoes now.
doesn't work very well.
It
for 'em.
doesn't.
I mean, it's good for like a traffic type of vehicle,
Taking
whatever.
the bears
but-
out of the woods.
So we're asking for about $1.4 million more in taxes for the municipality, which happens to correspond, and I know there's how you get there is complicated, but that number happens to also be about the amount of salary, it's just salary increase. That's just probably happenstance. So if we're asking for another $1.4 million from the taxpayers, where is it coming from? We're increasing our services because we've added 4 or 5-ish people, and we're going to provide better service because, and we have happier employees because they're not as stressed, and we've got, the staffs or the departments are fully staffed. Yeah, that's really what the argument is, right? And plus, we've had just general cost increases of insurance and the cost of keeping the lights on. Okay, so that's on one side of the ledger. On the other side of the ledger, if we were to try to scale this back, where would it come from? Well, would it come from the department heads? I mean, the departments being staffed? Probably not. We all realize that there's a need to keep the staffs at that level and to pay our employees. We had to bump in the CBAs, and the employees are now happy with that. So that's probably off the table, right? Could we cut services back? I mean, it's a possibility. I'm trying to think of like, how do you, what's the alternative to 1.4 million in more taxes? I don't really see any. That's kind of where I'm getting to.
The other problem is $500,000 less in capital, minimum,
That would be like,
because the past couple of years has been 2.5 and up.
well, again, then you're gonna have to look at bonding and taking it out over a longer period.
No, I mean, I'm just saying, the past several years, the capital projects that we've done have been like 2.5, 2.3, 2 point whatever, and we were able to do that without an increase because of good market conditions, good business scenarios, a lot of money coming in, whatever. The other big issue we have here that we can't overlook also is this litigation that we just don't know how much it's gonna cost. It's already cost a lot of money, and it's gonna cost a lot more. So that's another thing we have to be mindful of, and there's no way for us to control that. So, I mean, litigation is something, staffing, to Dan's point, is something, inflation on stuff we need. Like you said, the police cars, the equipment, maintenance, oil. I got my oil changed the other day. I almost fell out of the car.
Yeah.
It was $136. $136.
So
But I'm saying, like, just basic stuff to run all this equipment has gone through the roof.
So we're going to, if we were to lower the expense of where would it come from? Would it come at the expense of the staff and the services? Okay, let's rule that out for now. The other part of the ledger is, how can you offset that? Okay, we're going to offset that in part with the solar, with the brownfield, right? So that's going to cut into this a
From your
chunk.
lips to God's ears, Dan.
Yeah, okay, well, anyway, I'm just, okay, where else can we gain revenue to offset this? Nothing comes to mind.
Hookups. But
The
that's
sewer,
gonna
okay,
take
right, the
time.
sewer may not realize this year, but that's going to blunt future expenses, future cost increases. Do we have any other revenue generators that are foreseeable?
Property sales.
I can do that.
We have a lot of lots that we own. Maybe we look at what can we
Yeah.
sell
Pieces here and there.
to offset. I don't know if it would even put a dent in it, because I don't know what all the properties are, but
If our bonds are going to be paid off, wouldn't we see a drop in the servicing of the debt in our expenses here? Or that's not in this part of the ledger?
he said the last payment though is this year.
Okay.
So we don't see it till next year.
But is that in this budget here, or is that a separate?
So and that's only half, though. Normally, we were paying about $1 million a year in bonds, and this year we're only paying 515,000.
But that's in this budget here, that's not a separate line item, okay. But, so it's almost antithetical when we say we need to start accruing some more debt, and we're also asking for $1.4 million more in taxes. It's hard to reconcile those two numbers. And you certainly don't want to accrue debt to pay off your operating, keeping the lights on stuff. That's,
You want to try to keep it to something substantial. Like, okay, I know one of our projects is, or one of the wings we got hanging out there that's still in a note is the conversion of or the fields over at White Lake. So maybe pull that note in, and, maybe the one for,
But we have more work going on
oh,
over
the
there.
one for the salt barn. Pull that note in and take some of those that are, good sturdy type of projects, something that's gonna last a 20-year period, and go out and throw them on a bond.
we could do that.
And spread, so you can spread those payments
Yeah.
over 10, 15, 20-year period, whatever. Instead of, what I've done with them in the past is usually I'll try to make it so I can pay them off in a 10-year period to keep them under going out the permanent. But, okay, we take them into permanent and take them up to that 15 or 20-year period, just to spread the debt out.
Yep.
So that way, by spreading the debt out, yes, the payments may be higher and stuff like that, but it'll allow you to do more projects, if you follow me.
Is it common to have spread out a municipal bond over 20 or 30 years?
The tops I've seen is 20,
It's, yeah,
and that's
seems
usually,
high, yeah.
usually 20 would be like, if you build a new municipal building.
I was gonna say,
or-
what was it on this one? when
like
you
an
built
airport, might be 20, right?
This one was hard because it went, I don't know, it was so screwy. I think we, altogether, when they built this, was about 7 million. as near as I could tell, because it went the
Yeah,
contractors went
tawdry
bankrupt.
tail.
and
Oh,
then it
that's
wasn't-
right.
yeah.
Okay, so this is not a good example.
Yeah.
But different things that we want to do for capital plans, what you're saying is we could pull in some of the existing notes, pay them off, take the money
Well-
and fund it through a bigger bond that we would
Yep.
take.
Well,
That
yeah,
would
yeah.
include
You'd
those
roll them
notes.
into
Get the
the-
notes off the books and take the money in and then pay it.
And you'd amortize it over a longer period, so your expenses, your servicing might go down.
exactly.
Yeah.
And like I said, I would not, if we're buildings or structures that have
It's
that
sticky, that has
life,
capital, yeah.
life expectancy, then, maybe you go out to a 15 or 20-year tops, and then like, if it's just more field maintenance or a dump truck or something like that, try to keep that shorter term, like,
Mhm.
like a 5 or 7-year bond.
I'll tell you what, if you want to get things like, I understand your pain with the police cars because the fire trucks are even worse. How long have we been waiting? 3 years? We put the order in 3 years ago.
Yeah, we're still waiting for it.
And
Yeah.
I just talked to someone the other day, bumped into them at 7-Eleven. I said, where is the truck? And they're like, we're gonna be lucky if we get it by the end of the year.
Wow. Was Boeing building it?
3 years. It's a mess.
And they did another one. There's another one that's past its life, its natural life.
Hmm?
There's another one past its natural life now.
And
So Sam, the amount we're paying per year, if I see this correctly, for debt is, I'm not sure what page it is, but it looks like 1.1. Last year it was like 1.4 million. Now we're down to 1.1 million. We're paying. Okay.
yes,
So essentially, if we didn't have those debt payments, which I know is not a real scenario, that would have a big impact on the need to increase taxes so much, right? 1.1 million.
Right, so say the same thing differently. If we were to forego debt, we would take the debt service out of the budget. We would
Right.
save money that way, we offset it that way.
Well,
The
you got-
downside of that is now we put our credit rating at jeopardy
Right.
because,
exactly. So you got to look at this basically the way you would look at your own finances.
it's an investment in your credit
You
rating.
need a well-balanced portfolio.
Yeah.
I mean, you need some credit card debt, you need maybe a mortgage, something that shows that, you got to show that you have credit to get credit.
And to get a better rate on your
Right,
bonds,
yeah.
if you can,
The other thing to keep in mind is that our bond rating
double A plus.
affects the school. And they're going out for referendum next year. So we just have to understand that when they go out to get funding and all that kind of stuff, it's our credit reunion.
Oh, yeah.
It's
yeah.
not theirs, it's ours. So it's very important for a lot of different reasons.
I agree. Is there wiggle room here? Like, is there still flexibility to not affect our rating, but maneuver this?
Our rating is fine. I mean, again, honestly, by the time we pay off the debt though, they got nothing to rate us on.
Yeah.
So we need to,
It'll drop. Yeah,
We need something.
Yeah.
We can't just pay it and be done, is what you're saying, right? We
Yeah.
cannot just pay it and not have something else there.
Right. I'm
Otherwise,
saying
our
the
rating's
opposite,
gonna
that
plummet.
we think about increasing it slightly to free up some.
Well, we've talked about different capital projects that we want to do, like recreation, community stuff. We've talked about all that kind of stuff as well. So I think this is what we
Yeah.
need to have those conversations to say, okay, well, what could we do? Where could we do it? What could that look like? And that is where we look at, if we decide, okay, we're going to pull in these random little notes,
Yeah.
blend them into a bond, and then in that bond, do all the things that we've been kicking around doing for a long time now,
Just spread it out.
Right.
and spread out the payments so that the impact, because some of the things that we've been talking about doing are actually going to be money generators. So if we're smart about it, the things that we put in, if we build these things out in a staged process, we could be generating money to make the payment of the bond.
right.
So it's null and void to the taxpayer.
Even to think of it in this way, when you look at the sewer utility. Now, if we were to go take a bond out, just say theoretically, to pay for the hookup fees to every resident in a sewer service area, in the long run, it probably would generate us money if we put it on a bond, paid it off over that period.
Hmm.
because the increase in the revenue that we would
The
collect
sewer
from
would offset.
users,
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a good point. That's a good idea.
so
It's a
that
very
would
good
be
idea.
another thing, you could do the 5-year phase-in of the hookup, or you could just say, okay, look, we'll hook you up for free, just for the thought of getting the
Getting the bond.
user
Yeah.
fee in to start. Because most of our bonds are pretty much paid off on that. There may be like 4 or 5 years left on the bonds, but we paid for it, but we still are not using it.
And it's already still going to be expensive for the resident because they still have to pay SCUMA, right? For that 10,000?
I mean, even if they have to pay, I think it's more, how much, what does it
10,000.
actually, what does it
It's,
cost?
it's not a whole lot, but the problem of it is, we own the allocation, so we're paying for it even though it's not getting used.
Right, right.
And the problem is, once we give it up, we can't get it back.
Yeah, yeah.
So if something like a North Village or some big development, or like, for example, the high school, right? If we would have thrown away all that usage, we can't buy it back.
Mhm,
Once, that's why they overbought it to begin with.
Yeah, yeah.
And remember, the state at one point had promised they were making Route 15 4 lanes. So there was a lot of, but I'm saying, that was what they were supposed
Yeah,
to do.
yeah.
You guys remember that? They came in and said, we're gonna make this 4 lanes, so that's why you see a lot of that big stuff. So the planning at that time was much different with that promise, because that's a game changer. But it didn't happen. But still, we own it all, we're paying for all
Right,
of it,
right.
but we're just not utilizing it. We've gotta get people on.
It's been this long, we're going to wait for them more. They haven't done it yet. I mean, whoever's done it has done it, like,
Speaking of, back to Chris's point on maximizing revenue, are there more opportunities for CEP renewables to come and find more like solar generation? Like, we have the new salt barn that's got a huge roof on it. Are there other things? I showed you like the wind
Landfill was
turbines.
just a great location, and as you know, we went out to bid on that, and we had over 10, 12
Yeah.
bids. So it comes down.
Not trying to cover
location,
Sparta with-
Allocation on that, the transmission line was right there for them. We really do need to find it, and as we, Dan, I'm sorry, you weren't with us last night, but we actually talked about the solar panels and cashing in on SREX. When you own the panels, you have that ability to cash in on SREX. Except right now, you've got the situation that where you put the solar panels, you gotta have to use it on site. And the DPW uses very little electricity. It already has panels on the building roof itself, just like we do here. It's a neat idea. I've heard suggestions of the car canopies that you see is popular around with the solar panels on them. We could put them out here. The advantage of doing that yourself is then you're cashing on your SREX. Whereas the CUPs, it's more like a power purchase agreement.
You're
where
right.
You're just leasing the property and they're doing it.
Yep.
But if you had the funds to put the panels up yourself and administrate it like we're already doing, you get the biggest return on your investment.
And those turbines, I think, could be really, really interesting. You can hide them in a place. I wouldn't put a turbine on top of this building, but maybe over in the DPW or,
It's interesting. It was a cool link that you sent on that.
So just for the rest of the group, there's a new type of Archimedes screw or whatever they call it, the turbine. So rather than having the huge windmills, it's more compact. It's probably the size of like a VW Volkswagen Beetle type of thing, and it's conical, so it looks like a screw, and it always faces, it actually captures the wind from any angle, and it supposedly generates 4 times as much as a comparable solar array on your roof. These engines, these wind turbines.
So you put the solar, you don't
You-
put any solar panels up at all?
No, you could put this on the ground somewhere if you wanted to, like out in the field at the DPW
Can you
or
send me that?
yeah, I'll send you a link.
I mean, I think that, because I think the other thing is, with SREX, it's volatile, right? Sometimes they're hot, sometimes they're not, blah, blah, blah.
Well, they're more stable now, but yeah, go ahead.
I felt good about the fact that, and learning about, I think Tesla has this system. I think there's different systems out there where you can actually install this thing and power your house. Just like a lot of times, I don't know if you guys watch these shows.
Yeah,
but
we looked at
like
into those, got a
Out on
quote.
Grid, Alaxis Frontier, like all that kind of stuff. So I pay attention to like, a lot about what they're building in to be sustainable on their own. And I think it's one thing when you can have the power, capture it, and bring it directly into your thing versus having to capture it and then sell it. You know what I mean? I don't know if there's any benefit for us of doing anything like that. But I mean, the people that are doing it literally in the middle of nowhere are powering like their whole house. Or, I mean, it's amazing what's being generated. And they're literally not near a power line for 500 miles. But they don't have to sell it to anybody. It's actually being stored in the battery packs. And then that's plugged into their power panels. And that's just, doing everything. So I don't know if that is also something for a smaller site or is something that we might be able to
I'll send you that.
offset. I mean, the bill to run all the lights in this building cannot be cheap. Electricity to run all this stuff can't be cheap. So maybe we could also look at what can we, or is there a way for us to be able to put one of those systems in?
Well, you've already maximized.
And the wind doesn't stop blowing, whereas the sun stops shining at the night, the wind will generate, you don't have to worry about storing it. It's
So
always running.
But that's what I'm saying. I guess I should have been more specific though. It could be anything, any alternate source where the power is yours.
Yeah.
Where you don't have to worry about storing it in something and then going to market and selling it, I guess is my point.
We've got the panels here that pretty much already push the meter backwards on this building.
But that's because we sell them.
I don't think we sell them in this building.
Oh, we do both.
You do both. You sell the SRECs and you also collect electricity. So
Oh.
you're doing both.
Perfect.
Oh, are we selling SRECs from the generation here? I thought we're just at the water department.
All
Okay, it's everything, okay.
council meeting coming up, you're gonna approve that.
I look forward to it. Anyway, I'll send you the link to I think
That'd be
it's an
great.
interesting technology. And anyway, to frame it with this discussion as another way to offset expenses, if we can cover more of our expenses, sell more back to the grid, if we can install these in other locations where we have, like maybe well, I don't know,
Just so you're
wherever
aware,
we have town property.
We are very proactive in trying to operate as efficiently as possible.
I know.
We've already gone through 2 state energy audits where these lights have been changed out to LEDs, the motion sensors, the boiler upgrades in all our buildings. We've had these energy audits done. We've done it twice now. So we've tried to be proactive on being energy efficient along with the solar panels and whatnot. So, and then we all keep our eyes open and we share the ideas and see what comes of it.
I think the other thing also that's important is for us to be very mindful that we do need new business coming in here. We do need offsets, we do need ratables. It could be ratable XYZ, ABC, DEF, it doesn't matter what it is, but we have to have a healthy amount of ratables coming in. Our escrow, if you can confirm for me, but I believe our escrow is the lowest it's been in 20 years. Is that true? The escrow's low.
Oh, in surplus, you mean?
The escrow that's coming in from businesses that we normally have that are offsetting half the costs.
Yeah.
The rate.
Because the other thing to understand is escrow accounts and all that kind of stuff is also offsetting a lot of the money that we are paying right now for engineers and all kinds of stuff like that.
Right.
And we don't have it. So now we're footing the bill for it. The other thing is ratables in the form of taxes. I know we're going to be looking at different types of businesses moving forward, but it's very, very important that, we be aware, to Dan's point, when we're looking at offsetting these things, one of the biggest way to offset these things is to get businesses in here and keep the ratable machine going. So again, it's about balanced progress, but what we do not want to continue to do is have people think there's no, Sparta's closed for business.
Well, that's not the
Because if
case.
that stops-
I'm not hearing that. You might be hearing that, but the planning board is really busy with applications. The site plan waiver is very busy. I mean, there's lots of activity. So I don't see that. I mean, that there's tons of vacancies out there. I think we're open for business and we're busy.
Well, I don't know, whatever's happening or whatever kind of businesses are coming in, it's negatively, we're having a negative effect. We're not seeing the money we saw before.
Is there a big
So
change?
there needs to be a reconciliation.
But I'd
Because
like
the
to know,
escrow
I'd like to
account
know those
is-
numbers. When you say the escrow, you mean the applicant's escrow?
The escrow and the fees and all that kind
Yeah,
of
but
stuff.
if there's, if
coming
the
in.
applicants, if there's no applicants or if there's less applicants, those professionals aren't working on those applications, so they're not getting paid anyway. So,
The accounts we've closed out that were stagnant for 15, 20 years too. I mean, yeah, you had the money there, but nothing was happening.
okay,
Close them out, send the money back if we couldn't, then
yeah.
I think I'm still waiting on my escrow money for my.
It's in the mail, yeah.
It's in
Sure it is,
the mail,
yeah,
yeah.
it's in the mail, yeah, I got you.
It's in the budget here.
I think the other thing we really, I have another question, so I don't know how it's gonna affect this, but, I think it's on the governor's desk right now. We've been getting lots of correspondence about it, which is this new, we talked about it, the new COA, and everything, and, you know, I'm very apprehensive to believe it's gonna be better for us, because I haven't seen, and obviously it's not approved, so we
It
don't
is,
know if what was,
Actually, they signed it
he signed it? When
Yep.
did he sign it? Today?
yesterday.
Yesterday?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think, I don't know how we get a copy of that, but I think we need to look at that, because we had negotiated that deal with Tom Collins. I just want to really see if it did really go lower, because I think we need to also be mindful about the kind of housing and the types of housing and the different things if we're not tied to the COA obligation that we were tied to before.
Yeah. The first impression I got from Tom is that everyone's numbers are going up
But the,
from last time.
I thought the whole point of it, well, one of the points of it, was to relook at places just like Sparta that had a huge highlands preservation percentage and whatnot, to really look at what could you put there and to reduce the number, because you, even if you built on every square,
Mhm.
you know, mile that you had with the highlands and the wetlands and the this and the that lands and lakes and everything running through,
Yeah.
you would never be able to meet that quota, which is why we had Tom go there in the first place and negotiate
Yeah.
something.
Yeah.
So I would really like to see that and have a conversation, because that might be something else that we could leverage in here somewhere to meet some of the new demands that we have, and to maybe do some offsets and some planning in our bonds and whatnot.
I think I talked to Tom last night and, yeah, I think that Tom Ryan and Ursula, I think we're gonna talk to them to have them come and talk to us
Okay.
and kind of get us up to speed and prep us
Yeah,
on that.
We
And-
actually have a lot of good resources between Tom and Glenn Keynes, and we also have our third-party agency,
Yeah.
CGP&H. They're running our sales and rentals for affordable housing. And I've spoken to them twice, and they seem very, I mean, it's their business. They're very knowledgeable of what's happening, and I know that they're following everything that's going on with the state.
Yeah.
I even ran into a gentleman, and I was asking him, I'm going, what about the towns who already have agreements?
Right.
What, and he couldn't answer me.
Nobody could,
Yeah.
And
because COA is so
Yeah,
COA's
should we wrap
gone.
up?
COA, as it was before, is gone.
Yeah.
So that's the problem.
Mhm.
Anyone who has a contract with an organization that is no longer even in existence, by default, you would think,
Yeah, I'm not sure how they're handling that.
well, that's why
I'm sure they're
I had
carrying it
asked Tom
over to the
Ryan,
next numbers come out, but I think it's gonna be sooner than middle of next year. I think the
well, we
numbers
need
gonna
to
be out
know
sooner.
that, I think.
Yeah, yeah.
So if we could get some update, Jim, on like what the impact of that is gonna be as well, I think
Well,
that would be helpful.
Dean just enlightened me. It looks like Tom and Ursula may
Okay,
give us.
Yeah, that's what
separate
Tom
step.
Collins and I talked about. He thought was the best plan. I said, Tom, do you want to come to talk to us? He said, well, Tom Ryan and Ursula, they're in touch a lot, and
Yeah.
that would be a good plan if we want to
I'll
maybe see
stay
if
on
they'll.
top of it and let you guys know.
Okay. So, yeah, we have like 7 minutes.
open to the public.
Yes, okay. All right, so Sam, we'll get our feedback. How do you want to handle our thoughts and feedback once we
Oh,
have
we
more
have another
time to
meeting,
dig
right?
in? Do you want it in the interim, though?
we could do another meeting. The introduction, I would, if we want it, if we can have it like within the next week, I'm looking at the introduction probably to be the first meeting in April.
Yeah, I think Josh and Neil should have opportunities to make comments in
Yeah.
public
Yeah,
as
yeah.
well.
But, I mean, if we got to push it off and do the second meeting, we could do that. But if we can get it together to have it introduced on
What's the
the,
deadline?
April 2nd. He wants to
April
introduce-
2nd?
That's the next council meeting?
well, look, that,
The ninth.
9th, I'm sorry.
the 9th
Oh, no.
would be the
Thank you,
introduction.
We'll have to have another meeting
And then,
next week.
and then you got to have the second reading 28 days
But then it
later.
has to go to the state before we can have
No,
the,
we're self-examed this year, so
we still what?
we're self-examed.
Doesn't have to go to the state.
Oh, it doesn't have to go to the state?
Right.
Okay.
So we might have to do this again next week, you're
Yeah.
saying, which is
Okay.
fine.
Okay,
Yeah, I mean, like I say, this was just more or less to show everybody where we're at.
No,
I
thank you
mean,
for doing this.
obviously, amongst yourselves, you could probably get a copy of this to the other two council and
I'm going to send it to him.
let the, well, you know, they got any questions, or they can call in, stop in, whatever.
So just to be clear, right now, is this public information?
No.
Right now, this is confidential, not to be shared outside of council.
Yeah, just keep it amongst yourselves. I mean.
Well, this is a
it's
public
it's-
meeting,
It's a
but they
draft.
can't have this.
No, but that's what I just want to be clear because I think it blurs the lines when you have a public meeting, but what you're talking about is confidential. So I just want to be clear that for everyone here and everyone to understand that until this gets introduced.
That's why I did it on my Excel worksheets
Okay.
instead of on the state budget form, because it's a draft.
Okay, okay.
I mean, the budget form is the legal paper that's
Yeah.
Yeah.
thick or whatever.
Okay.
Just to get the books.
Yeah.
Okay, let me move on to open it up to the public for any input, questions, comments. Seeing no one is here, we'll close the public session part of the agenda. And with that, yeah, so we're ready to adjourn. Make a motion to
We
adjourn.
have just quickly, we have a council connect tomorrow at the library at 11.
Oh, yeah.
So,
I think it's Neil, you and Neil, right, I think?
yeah, I don't know if Neil's going to make it, but I'll be there. I'll be there till 12:20 because I have an appointment at 12:30. I took a vacation day tomorrow, so I have an appointment at 12:30, but I will be there from 11 to 12:20.
Awesome.
Oh, I can't
So
take
if anybody
tomorrow off.
would like to take,
Neil's not there, I can't take off.
what?
I can't make it if Neil's not there.
If Neil's not there?
Or you're
Oh,
busy,
you
mean?
can't make
You
it.
can't- Yeah.
Yeah,
you're busy.
if you're saying if Neil can't make it, you'll
Yes.
be all alone. I'm just saying I can't
Oh,
fill
you
in for
can't?
Neil
Okay, all
because.
right. Well, I know it's sort of, it's last minute, but he got pulled into
so
something,
he
I
just wants
guess,
to
in
adjourn.
a court or something, I'm not sure, but anyways, so. But I'll still be there, I don't want to cancel it, so I'll still go, and if anyone's around that would like to join,
Bring Sudoku.
Yeah.
No. I said bring Sudoku or, or a book.
well, last time we had like 6 or 7 people, it was great. I mean,
had
it was,
3, I think,
it was really
yeah.
great, we had the ideas about the update to Main Street, which are the upgrades and the beautification, so that was great. But, yeah,
All right, just to wrap, so we have a motion to adjourn. Do I have a second?
so moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.